Welcome to a long overdue GST centimeter. As India enters the 6th year of GST, a survey by Deloitte India of over 600 companies shows that India Inc. has given a thumbs up to this entire tax implementation, with 72% of those polled saying that the experience with GST has been positive, versus only 59% who said positive in the previous survey conducted in 2022. Another positive from the survey, 88% of MSMEs who were surveyed reported that their costs have fallen due to the optimization of supplies thanks to GST. Now, to understand more about how India Inc. feels about the implementation, what does it want about the implementation improved, I have with me the author of the survey itself, Mahesh Jaising, partner Indirect Tax at Deloitte. Also joining us, Mauvin Godinho, the Goa Cabinet Minister, Goa's representative in the GST Council for a goodish bit now, so he's a veteran of that council, and Mr. DP Nagendra Kumar, former member of the GST Council and the CBIC, Government of India. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I think we have masters of GST joining us on this. Well, I'm going to start with you, Mahesh, simply because you know the survey best. Have I understood it right, that the big message from the survey is India Inc. loves GST? Okay, that's too strong. India Inc. is happy with GST.
Yes, and I'm not sure if I'm the author. The author is the 612 participants who participated. And, one of the points that you mentioned, MSME, it's important to understand that almost 21% of our participants were MSME. The numbers always tell a story. You did talk about 59% going up to 72. So when you look at the positives, it's clearly gone up, as well as even the neutrals. On balance, neutral plus positive was almost 90 last year. It's gone up to 94%. I think that it is given a thumbs up. I think it is a balanced thumbs up because it recognizes that the law and the framework is working well for being able to conduct business, getting in cost efficiencies. And as we progress today, there are some positive and constructive suggestions as we embark to the journey ahead on GST.
Okay. Well, let me ask if the person who's wearing the shoe feels the same. Mr. Godinho, from a state's finance minister point of view, are you happy that all the states voluntarily gave up a right, in a way, to the council, if not to the centre? Has it paid dividends, or do you think that maybe the compensation cess needs to continue?
I think I have, for one thing, always been an optimist right from the beginning when GST came into being. And there were many pessimists at that point of time, because in such a large country, such a huge reform being introduced, whether it will work, how well it will work, whether it will affect their businesses. And I think at the end of it all, at the end of 5 years, as we enter the 6th year, I think it's a pretty happy situation. The figures itself speak for themselves. More than 1.5 lakh crore. I think is vividly displays how well GST has worked, how it has enhanced the compliances, how businesses have finally realized that it is one of the best reforms in conformity with one nation, one tax, and the ease of doing business also, if you look at it. It has really eased things that much, so much so that in the ease of doing business, our ranking itself has shot up, and GST has been one of the biggest contributors in that respect. So I must say that for a large country like India, it needed a very courageous and bold decision of our leadership, led by Shri Narendra Modi ji, and of course our very dynamic finance minister. This reforms is paying rich dividends.
Okay.
It's bound to take our economy making such big strides to truly lead the world as one of the leading economies in more senses than one.
Okay. No, Mr. Godinho, we have to stick to the technicalities of the tax. So I'm coming back to the tax issue. Let me get the first thoughts from Mr. Narendra Kumar as well, and I'll take it from where Mr. Godinho left. The fact that it is, giving you 1.5 lakh crore every month. This when the tax first started off, it was about 50,000 crore, went off to 70,000. That point is taken, but Mr. Nagendra Kumar, ultimately, indirect tax or GST is paid equally by every citizen, depending on what he buys. we have reached a stage where indirect taxes are more than the direct tax collection. We are trying our level best to balance it, but for the last 4-5 years, indirect taxes are trumping direct tax. That is fundamentally regressive. Is that a regret?
Thank you, Latha. But when we look at the tax GDP ratio in our country, we're still around about 11%. You look at the contribution of the direct taxes versus indirect taxes to the total tax receipts in the country, it is somewhere in the order of around about 54% direct taxes and about 46% is the indirect taxes. So the direct taxes are slightly higher than the indirect taxes, but the point is well taken. Indirect taxes being very regressive in nature, they ought to be moderated, and going forward, we should look upon more and more direct tax collections. But it is also true, the consequent introduction of GST, consequent to formalization happening in the economy, there is a good amount of buoyancy in the direct tax collection, which is a direct benefit on out of the GST implementation in our country. If you look at world over, the indirect taxes continue to play an important role, at least in those economies where the income levels are more or less stagnating. The consumptions are very, very stable. Therefore, the yield of tax revenue to the governments in direct taxes is also an assured receipt. Whereas in a developing economy and an emerging economy like ours, I think we need to look at a proper balancing between direct and indirect taxes. But going forward, I think the direct taxes is going to increase its contribution in the total tax share and also contribute to the tax GDP increase.
Okay, I am not able to lay my hands on the ratio right away, but for the past several years, indirect taxes have been more than direct taxes, a little more than 50%. We have been trying to correct it in the past budget, but that perhaps will remain a bit of a complaint. But let's come to not complaints, but to the advantages. Mahesh, one of the things pointed out is excellent supply management. Logistical management has been a result of GST introduction. Can you narrate what have been the advantages to industry?
I think, like Mr. Godinho had alluded very well about a transition from a sales tax to a GST. It was a bold decision. All the states came and rallied behind it. So the key advantage which our participants have, given a thumbs up is that the supply chain optimization is seamless. So whether you buy goods from any part of the country, you don't have an interstate tax, and therefore, from their perspective, there is no cascading effect of tax. And really, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We are in the 6th year, so it's not very young, the law in that sense, but the comfort of that experience of those cascading taxes going away is something that has come across in the survey as a thumbs up, saying supply chain optimization.
Okay.
Second, I think what was also interlinked was the whole technology advancement, particularly the large and very large companies. Almost 96 and 99% have given a thumbs up on e-invoicing being integrated to the returns. The MSMEs have also given a thumbs up at 70%, but I think that number will only get better next year because the threshold has dropped only recently. But where I'm getting to is slightly different. I think what industry seems to be suggesting is these technology investments and advancement by the government has helped them to know their VAT credits or GST credits real time. And that is a material change rather than investing a lot of time to manage your supply chain as well as getting to know what GST credit is due to you. So to me, these are the two significant advantages or thumbs up that has come out of the survey, Latha.
Mr. Godinho, the point is where are we going from here? Now, one of the points that come out in the survey is clearly that the point where we need to improve, we need to ensure that decisions by various tax authorities are not differing. We have to get this discrepancy across jurisdictions removed. That's one major point that the survey throws up. Now, the centre has already indicated about the setting up of GST Tribunal. Can you give us your view on, when will the states pass and by what time can we expect a central GST Tribunal which can, ensure that there is no cross-country discrepancies in decisions?
I think as far as the tribunals are concerned, we have our group of ministers gave a very clear report, and we tried to incorporate the best practices in with other authorities, wherein things would be streamlined. I'm fully aware that as of present, there are so many issues which are pending in various courts, and that's necessitated us hurrying up a little. But nevertheless, I think the GOM as well as thereafter the GST Council took a very good decision to expedite the formation of the various administrative tribunals as well as the Central Tribunal, so that things have to attain closure. We can't keep ITCs blocked. We can't keep things pending in a manner that impacts the businesses. One must realize that for such a huge reform, 5 years is not that long a time. But if you look overall, it has stabilized to such an extent that the main impediments which led to enhancing one's businesses or simplifying things for the stakeholders has already been attained. And one can really see the regime working well and using the data that comes through electronic system. As you know, the GST and they have improved their functioning
No,
manifold.
that point is taken. So I'm just asking you, when do you see the Central Tribunal up and running?
We efforts are to see that it is done at the earliest possible time, as soon as possible.
Okay.
It is the endeavor of everyone concerned to see that it is done in a record time, because it will help everybody. It's
What's
not anybody's case. If that is delayed, it would
okay?
means really help
Yeah, it
anyone.
won't. Yeah, it'll hurt everyone. Mr. Nagendra
Yeah.
Kumar, a realistic time, you think, for central tribunals?
I think the Finance Act 2023 has already amended the provisions in the CGST Act to enable constitution of tribunal. The rules which will give the operational details for operating the tribunal are on the way. I think the next GST Council could deliberate upon the rules and approve and ratify them. Consequent to which, I think the process for identifying and selecting the members, both judicial and technical members, also constituting the tribunals in every in Delhi as well as in the state headquarters, could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. It's a time possible for constituting the tribunals, but we need to wait for the rules to be in place before we go for the further process.
Yep. We have more interesting questions on the gaming issue, which will come up perhaps in the next GST Council meeting as well. And Mr. Godinho will have a thing or two to say about that, and also other suggestions coming from this very interesting survey. All those questions after the break in a minute. Welcome back to this special edition of GST Centimeter. What we are discussing is a very interesting Deloitte survey on how India Inc. is responding to GST, and we find a massive 72% saying that their experience with GST has been positive. I've been speaking with Mahesh Jaising of Deloitte, Mr. Nagendra Kumar, who is a former member of the GST and CBIC, and the Goa Minister, Mauvin Godinho, who is a veteran in the GST Council itself. Okay, Mr. Godinho, you know, one of the things about GST has been the vast amount of data it has thrown up, and the central government, almost all experts tell us, have done a very good job of data mining and their ability, therefore, to, first of all, you know, tax those who have been evading, but more importantly, getting other, you know, regional important data about the Indian economy. The states have lagged behind in data mining. Will this be a priority for Goa and for other states?
I think it should be the topmost priority today in the world. First of all, gathering good data is of utmost importance, and then using the data by the various agencies in real time for the real time good of the economy in this particular case is very, very important. And I think we have done reasonably well in that direction, I must say, because so many frauds have been detected. We know exactly where are the leakages, and a little bit more use of artificial intelligence also is going to help. And we are going to do that very shortly,
Okay.
wherein we will be able to really get good data which can be used by the various agencies connected in financial
Yes.
jargons to see that these type of leakages are not there. And it's precisely because we have done this reasonably well that you find that the figures are every time increases
Yep.
as far as the collection in GST is concerned.
That's a fair point, sir. In fact, now GSTN has been allowed to be integrated even into the credit system, and we are hoping that account aggregators will be able to use GST to get the credit worthiness of MSMEs, so more people will be able to avail of credit from the banking system. One hopes that level of data mining is, going to come up fast. Mahesh, what do you think should be the key improvements that the system needs? I mean, the survey, of course, lists quite a few. One of the big asks is that GST on capital goods used for exports should be excused, obviously, because that will make our exports more competitive. But do you think such giveaways can be expected? What would be your priority list?
Well, I'm fortunate to have Mr. Godinho in this meeting, so he could also, as an active participant, work on some of the suggestions and consider them.
Please.
So from the 3 points that came out in the survey to me were dual audits and investigations. I think given that we are in the 6th year and the tax authorities have to do the audit, so nobody's saying why. It's part of the statute and it's being done. But perhaps in this year, when at a state level, I may be audited by the central authorities as well as state. I think the respondents are hoping for more clarity on a standard operating procedure so that multiplicity of audits are reduced. Also, for companies having multiple state operations, one clarification in one state or a position could be replicated rather than the position being tested. So that's point one. Point two is there's been an acknowledgement that the GST Council has been very active on engaging and understanding issues and issuing clarifications. So there's an expectation that that only continues and there's a little bit more focus on implementation. And the third point that you talk about exports, there is a resounding, number of folks who actually believe that this export rules needs to be relooked at because there are some pockets of where there are exceptions to the norm on export, and therefore there are some demands that may come on what industry believes as exports. And linked to that is the point that you said that can the capital good refund be allowed on an export of goods or services? There is a way in the law that it is there, but it's by two options. I think industry is hoping that it's in a plain vanilla option as well, that if I pay 10 crore rupees with 1 crore 80 lakh on the input on the capital good, I should be allowed to claim that refund. I do think with the resounding success and the rates and the collections hitting so high, time is ripe for some of these suggestions to be acted upon.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, at least from an export standpoint, though at the moment services exports are doing so well that nobody is feeling the pinch. If we were a fragile five, they would have felt the pinch. At the moment, I don't think that's something the government will feel. But the government is definitely very actively looking at the GOM report on, a GST on casino and gaming. Mr. Godinho, this is something that will be very central to Goa. What should we expect in the next, should we expect a decision in the next council meeting itself, the July 11th meeting?
Of course, this is very central to Goa because casinos are there only in Goa and maybe a few in some other state like Sikkim. So it is very central to us. And I have been a member of the GOM, which was first constituted, and then we did submit a report. Then certain other points came to the fore. Thereafter, again, the second report also was submitted. Now, thereafter, various other changes have taken place as far as TDS and the whole taxation issue is concerned as regards not only the casinos but horse racing, then online games and all that. I think we need to have a relook because we ultimately have to adopt the international practices that are there prevalent in the world, whether it is the casinos, whether it is horse racing, or whether it is online gaming. We cannot punish industry which is nascent but growing fast just because we were not in the know of certain things, how the industry works. So we need to take a very careful view. These particular things are certainly going to come up in the next GST Council meeting on 11th when it takes place.
Yes.
And I'm sure all these points will be there on the table for us to arrive at a decision which will not kill the industry. It will help to the industry to go and the revenues of the government to grow. That should be the essence of the whole thing.
No, that kind of a practical approach is called for. But remember, we are a country where even in the gift city, there is prohibition, sir. So we are a very different kind of country. Okay, Mr. Nagendra Kumar, to come back to the survey itself. What, according to you, are the priority implementations or improvements that the government should consider?
In fact, the survey has clearly pointed out a couple of issues which are being upon as impediments in enhancing the effectiveness of implementation of GST. One is with regard to basically, I think, with regard to the related party transactions, the charge. I think probably the clarity in the law would provide a lot of comfort to the industry in taking a particular way of accounting their interbranch transfers. This is one issue that's come up. The other issue is basically the industry has also been talking about the working capital constraints, the blockage of credits. Prior to GST, I think perhaps the VAT laws provided for refunding of the input tax credit accumulated at the end of the financial year when annual returns are filed and if some audit or any of those assessment proceedings are concluded. In GST, the refund of accumulated ITC is restricted to only in respect of exports, which are zero rated, or where tax is inverted structure. Okay. Barring these two situations, the refund of the accumulated ITC is not there. So the industry's ask is to look at how best the blocking of ITC can be eased to make the working capital requirements of the industry. This is one big ask. The third important thing which has come up in the survey is with regard to the issues relating to some of the interpretational issues. Perhaps I think as GST settles down and more compliance activities in the form of scrutiny and audit starts, I think there could be a certain amount of issues which will come up, which the industry is looking for a quick resolution at both operational and policy level. Going by the past precedent in the 49 GST Council meetings so far held, the GST Council has been rather proactive in addressing some of those concerns and industry-related issues. And I'm sure in the coming days, I think the GST Council will continue to play the proactive role in issuing clarifications, guidelines, and circulars and make the process easier.
Okay, we will look forward to that. The first meeting is, of course, July 11th, but maybe in subsequent meetings, these discrepancies will be ironed out. A very quick rapid fire from all of you. We've gone from what, 50,000 per month to 1.5 lakh crore. I want only one number from each of you. Please don't make it a long answer. Mahesh, what do you think it will be 1 year down the line? What's the peak number?
I think 170, 170-ish.
Oh,
because
that's conservative. No, only one number. Mr. Nagendra Kumar?
I think I will look at 1.8 lakh crore, being ambitious for the reason that a lot of structural corrections and the efficiency in tax compliance is bound to take us somewhere to...
Okay, sir, got it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make it rapid fire. Mr. Godinho?
I would say I would look at 190 and even touching 2 lakh crore. And why not? If we continue the phenomenal growth and the fastest, calling ourselves the fastest growing economy, if we really grow fast, why will we not grow in figures as far as the GST collection is concerned?
I hope you finance ministers, both at the center and in the states, will remember that this is a regressive tax, sir. And you must have an eye that direct tax should earn the country more than indirect tax. If this succeeds so well, as you say, 2 lakh crore, and I wouldn't be surprised with that number at all. I think that's a fair guess. But I would hope that all of you, it'll simply make for inertia. When this one is doing so well, why chase direct tax? I hope that doesn't... I hope a day comes when you reduce the rates on GST.
But Latha-ji, if we reach that figure, it would also make out a case for true rationalization of the whole
I agree with you.
taxation process, which will help everybody in the long run.
I do hope. I do hope that is... I take your point entirely, sir. If I don't think you need to wait for 2 lakh crore. It's already succeeded so well that rate rationalization should be one of the priorities that the government should undertake in the interest of equity, in the interest that you can't have, 51-49 in favor of indirect taxes or even 50-50. OECD countries have 33-66. Direct taxes take 66. So we should be working towards some level of equity. That's just a request from the media. Thank you very much, Mr. Godinho, Mahesh Jaising and Nagendra Kumar for joining us in this special discussion on GST 6 years and the way ahead.